There's so little heavy cream. There's there's so little sugar in heavy cream. It's the perfect replacement for milk. That is not true. Heavy cream is not the innocent milk replacement that we thought it was, or that we were told it was actually. And the cheese that we use to bind all kind of keto desserts is wreaking havoc on our diets. Now, we've embraced dairy in the keto community. Honestly, we've been told to embrace like I feel like there's no restriction placed on dairy. But I think that was a mistake. Just like when like with sugar, I had no idea that I was doing anything that was bothersome to my body with dairy until I removed it. When I got it out of my diet, that's when I took it out, I was back to wanting cheese, sour cream, and then nuts, and finally fried chicken. So the kind that actually has flour or breading. Like I wanted fried chicken. I've had so many people in the comments of the last video that I did about my carnivore coffee and when I shared all this information, pushing hard for the idea that just because I had a problem doesn't mean that everyone will have a problem. Wellness Warrior, I want to remind you about the interview that I did with Dr. Eid. That was like 2 years ago, and she was already warning me about the issues with dairy in that video, right? She was talking about, and the thing that like blows my mind is that I didn't move on this faster was that she talked about the fact that milk from a cow is designed to get something to grow through thousands of pounds as quickly as possible because it needs to get to be an adult so it can protect itself, right? Or big enough, right? So it can protect itself. And yet humans are drinking it. And she's pointing out how none of that made any kind of sense. And yet I didn't move on that as soon as she told me that. But I can tell you that I'm happy that I've moved on it now because what I thought was a minuscule, like insignificant indulgence that I was still engaging in was a huge problem. And it was actually like if I had someone else driving the car from the back seat and I think I'm in control, wasn't all control. So this isn't a my issue situation. It's the reality of dairy. So today, I want to discuss some of the questions and issues that people had with that carnivore coffee video because it's bigger than just casomorphin, as I realize as I'm reading these questions and these comments. So I want to talk about some of the stuff that came to me after I started looking at what you guys were saying. I want to start with the fact that we've been told that having a bit of junk can help us to not chase, right? To help us to, like, if you just have a little bit, you'll be okay. And our experience says that that doesn't work. If I have a cookie, I go off the rails. If I have like a little bit of chocolate, like one of these little stupid things, I go off the rails, or used to. Anyways, I would go off the rails. And in the keto carnivore world, we're still trying to use the same faulty logic. I need every wellness warrior to understand that anytime that we are making keto carnivore replacement foods, that's an attempt to keep the junk in our diet in a safe way. And often it doesn't work for multiple reasons, which I'm going to touch more later. But the one I'm going to share with you right now is that when I make, for example, replacement cookies, they're sweet, right? Otherwise, they wouldn't taste right. So that's why you have to put these artificial sweeteners and stuff. And it just causes problems because your sweetness also causes us to chase. Now, companies also come out with low carb versions of the high carb crap that they sell so that we have an option, right? The same way they came out with diet. They came out with diet when they were trying to do low calorie back in the day when they tricked us that calories meant something. Well, now that a lot of us are starting to understand that calories aren't a thing and it's carbohydrates we need to pay attention to, they're coming out with low carb stupidity to get us. And we eat it because it won't spike our insulin. First, I want to point out that fructose does not spike our insulin, but according to Dr. Berry, it glycates 7 times more than glucose. So, for those of you who don't know, glycation is damage that happens to our cells and tissues and what. So, the glycation is bad. So, even though insulin is not going up, damage is insulin is not the only indicator of danger to our bodies. And the part that bothers me is that medical knows this. And as a matter of fact, companies know this. They are only tackling the thing that we are paying attention to. They're not tackling all the other stuff because then they wouldn't be able to make stuff like this or stuff like this or, all this foolishness. They wouldn't be able to make these things that we would eat if we knew that all the chemical stupidity in that stuff is not helpful to us. That's why this casomorphin issue is so important for me to talk about again, because I want us to see the bigger picture here. We are encouraged to whip heavy cream to make, for example, ice cream replacements. So I want to read you the ingredients of this recipe I found for keto ice cream. It makes 4 servings. So it's 1 cup of heavy whipping cream, 2 tablespoons of powdered 0-calorie sweetener. That could be Swerve or stuff like that. 1 tablespoon of vodka, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, a 1/4 teaspoon of xanthan gum, and a pinch of salt. I like the salt part. So it's a 1/4 cup of heavy cream per serving, which, Wellness Warrior, comes out to 2.3 grams of carb. That's not a lot if you're doing a keto way of eating. It's negligible. If you're doing carnivore, well, it presents an issue that I think most carnivores don't think about. See, a lot of people seem to have decided to do carnivore because it's easier on their brain. I don't have to think about the carbohydrates in the vegetation. I don't have to worry about them. I just eat meat, fish, poultry, eggs, dairy, right? I eat these safe things and I never have to worry about the carbohydrate count. The problem is you still need to understand that there is a carbohydrate count because companies do stuff to trick us because most of us still don't understand that it's carbohydrates that's causing the problem in our health. So when we look at the label of a box of heavy whipping cream, it says that there's 0 carbs per serving. But yet, when we look at that recipe that I just read you, it had 2.3 grams of carbs per serving. And the thing in there bringing the carbs was the heavy whipping cream. Because I actually checked. Well, actually, I don't know what the recipe said. So maybe clarify that. I don't know what the recipe said the carb count was. I honestly don't know if there's a carb count for vodka. I checked on my container or the brand that I used to use, that container, to see how much carbohydrate would that have been back when I was using heavy whipping cream. It's 2.3 if I had taken a 1/4 cup of my old brand of heavy whipping cream. So, was there more in that because there was also vodka, which I didn't even think to check how much carbs? Could there be carbs? I don't know. In vodka, I didn't even check. So let me just say that right now. But 2.3 grams is not 0. So what I need us to understand is for every person who takes more than 1 serving of heavy whipping cream in their coffee or whatever else they're putting it on in around whatever, understand that now you have, so 1 serving is actually 0.6 grams, which back in school, I was taught that if it was more than 0.5, so actually not even more, 0.5 and above, you were supposed to round up to 1 is what I was taught in school. But somehow 0.6 They're rounding down to zero because the government allows them to do that, which then allows them to pretend that there's no carbohydrates in that serving when there are. For people who are diabetic, for people who are highly sensitive to that sugar, even if you're not diabetic but have any other issue that creates sensitivity to sugar, knowing that there's zero point 0.6 grams might be important to you. And they don't tell us that. Now, can we also pause a moment and realize that there was vodka in that recipe? I took the recipe, like I said, it was a keto recipe. So I want to point out, when your only criteria for what you'll eat is, does it raise my insulin? This is the kind of stuff we'll accept, because vodka will still harm your liver like in any other thing. It being in ice cream does not stop it from harming our liver. We keep touching the problem foods without knowing they are problem foods, because we're only thinking about one marker, and that leaves us thinking that we're doing good when we're still causing internal damage. We are totally unaware that these foods keep our brain on the lookout, right? We are looking for opportunities to eat the fun stuff. Every holiday, every stressful event, or the offering from our child, right? Our kid comes up to us and says, "Oh, my mommy, I made you a sandwich." And we're going to take a bite of the sandwich because we're looking at that as we see it as an opportunity to entertain our mouths. And maybe because we don't want to hurt our kids' feelings, right? So we take a bite of the sandwich. But do we understand that that is entertaining our mouth and potentially setting up the situation where we end up chasing? And I want to point something out to you, wellness warriors, for everyone is going to say, but my kids' feelings matters more than mine. First of all, that has to be impossible. My kids' feelings matter so much. Okay, my kids' feelings matter so much. If your little kid had made you a Play-Doh sandwich and brought it to you and said, Mommy, I made you a sandwich, eat it, would you have eaten it? I'm sure most of you just said no. You would have said, "Oh, sweetheart, that's so cute." And you would have, yum, 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 pretend to eat it. And you would have said, "Oh, we don't eat Play-Doh," right? Please, you need to just understand that you also can say to your kid, "Mommy doesn't eat that." If you were allergic to, like, let's say you had a gluten issue, would you eat the sandwich? No, you'd say, "Oh, mommy can't eat that." We eat it because it's an opportunity to entertain our mouths. And we need to see that if we'll ever change it. Now, I'm not sure that we even call this cheating. Like, I don't think that we even label it properly until the next day, until we're in trouble, until we're chasing and craving and out of control. And then we're like, "Oh, that was a mistake, and I kind of cheated on my diet." And we say it after the fact. I'm asking you to see it before it happens, because that's the only way that you're going to change what's happening in your life. You need to be proactive in this. We need to understand that we are not in control, but we want to be. We should, like, that's what we're aiming for. And in order to become in control, we need to understand that heavy cream does not raise insulin significantly if you have just that one serving. So yes, from an insulin perspective, it is absolutely safe. But heavy cream, even at regular levels, is still triggering dopamine because it has opioid effects. Now, how much you get triggered is going to be dependent on you, right? But I want you to think about it. For those of you who have been eating on plan and so careful about your carbohydrates, so especially people in the keto world, but like, if you are doing carnivore and you were paying attention to those carbohydrates and you were eating on plan and you don't understand why, you still find yourself craving and even occasionally eating off plan, this could be impacting you without you even knowing that it's impacting you. Now, I got a viewer comment that I want to read to you guys. on the carnivore coffee video that everyone was upset with me about. Salo Brenna said, just looked up the casomorphins in processed foods, and it said any label that contains cow's milk derivatives, so that means it could be powdered milk, it could be cheese product, like anything that comes from cow's milk, dot dot dot. Another reason processed foods are so addictive. So basically, we are eating in any processed food that we buy that has any of these milk products in it, casomorphin. And again, what bothers me is companies are fully aware that casomorphins have an opioid effect that get our brain, right? They know that. So I want to talk about the dopamine priming idea. This isn't about you being out of control, right? This is about you just having enough to feel normal. So, we see this on people who have other issues, like you say, if they're drinking, for example, that they're not themselves until they have that first drink. Coffee drinkers is another place we see this. Caffeine, where like you can't talk to this person in the morning before they've had their first coffee, or it's problems, right? When we need a little bit of the thing to be okay, this is a problem, right? So, but the problem gets bigger because so I'm having this little bit of something to help me to be okay, which I didn't realize I was doing. I get up in the morning, at some point I feel a little peckish, a little hungry, and I have my coffee, caffeine, with dairy, casomorphin. What's happening in my head, right? So when we're having this just to feel okay, what happens when there's any kind of special event? How will I feel good, happy, great, amazing, excited, right? And this is where we get into trouble, Wellness Warrior, because in order for us to get that little extra boost, now we touch the cookie. Now we touch the cake. Now we have just one slice of pizza. Our brain is looking for the excitement factor. We already had the stuff that keeps us normal, that keeps us neutral, that keeps us balanced, right? We had our little hit of casomorphin that we have every day. But we don't realize that when we go to a party, we don't just want to feel neutral. We want to have a good time. We want to be, and all of a sudden, we're in a situation. And when there's a problem in my life and I want to feel better, that little bit of casomorphin that I normally have in my coffee is not enough to make me just feel better, right? I need a little more to feel better. And we end up touching the thing that gives us the little boost and helps us to feel better. I was feeling bad and now I feel back to normal and I need it. The casomorphin, the alcohol, the artificial sweeteners, the caffeine, the chemical silliness that I don't even know about yet, that I haven't found yet, because these products are full of stupidities. They are all ways that we inadvertently keep ourselves chasing. When we want the cookie or the chocolate later, we think we're weak. We blame ourselves. We're looking at us because we're the only person here. And we don't even realize that we were set up by the silly processes, or we were set up by the keto replacements that we made. And oftentimes we're making those keto replacements with processed foods, which I've learned not to trust, because they say they make these things a certain way, and then you find out that it wasn't true, and that they were bleaching things and deodorizing things and doing all kinds of things that if you were willing to do that when I was eating standard diet, why am I believing you won't do that when I'm eating your specialty keto replacement stuff that you made for me? Because all you want is my money. The real issue is that we are afraid of not being able to cope, Wellness Warrior. We're afraid that we won't be able to do life properly if we don't have ways to regulate our mood. We think we need an outside something to help us to feel better. Like, does that sound crazy to any of you that we don't trust ourselves to solve life's problems and and do a good job for ourselves, that we think we need to eat something to make our mood, say that we're so afraid that if we're not feeling good, that we'll get stuck there? And it's a testament to what's going on in our world today, because a lot of people are depressed. A lot of people are anxious. Dr. Eid pointed out that, and she was part of a research paper that showed it, that they were able to feed people healthy food. So they did keto in that experiment. And all of them had improvements in their medication. So that means that they were taking less medications. Some of them off their medications completely. I think it was like really high percentage, like above 75% off the medications completely. And not just for mental health. Even the ones that had physical things also off their, some of them got completely off their medication. The reason that I'm bringing this up is that we're so afraid that we're not going to be able to cope with life. We're so afraid that we're not going to be able to be happy. But it's the silliness that we're eating that is causing us not to cope with life. The things that should not be in our diet that are causing us not to cope with life. Even the food things that we call this food that shouldn't be in our life, that are causing us not to cope with life. We've been taught that feeling bad is a sign of weakness and we should never feel bad. That is not true. That is so false, it's laughable. We need to feel bad sometimes to know when things need to change. All feelings have a function. All feelings are relevant to your life. Negative emotions tell us what to do. They tell us what we don't like. They tell us what must change. They tell us that we need to address something that's going on. That's how you know if a relationship isn't working. That's how you know if you maybe need to change jobs or have a conversation with your manager or whatever. That's how you know if maybe you need to find a new hobby. If I'm bored all the time, my hobbies aren't fun anymore. Rather than trying to avoid our feelings, through eating, through drinking stuff, through doing avoidance behaviors, we need to lean into our feelings, Wellness Warrior. So there's two things that I really want you to focus on to make this happen, right? To solve this issue. You need to identify the triggers that get you to eat off plan and minimize those things in your diet. Now, the obvious one that most people I talk about keto and carnivore. So most of you, if you're new here, if you're a new person watching this, I talk about keto and carnivore. So the obvious one is sugar. The sugar in our diet shouldn't be there. And I'm not just talking about these silly things. I'm talking about fruit too. There's no reason for us to eat fruit. If you're going to eat vegetation, stick to the low glycemic vegetables. And I'm even saying berries. I know there's a lot of people that advocates for berries being okay. Berries are higher in fructose than low glycemic vegetables. Since fructose glycates 7 times more than glucose, according to Dr. Berry, why would we eat that? So if you're going to eat vegetation, do yourself a favor. Stick to the low glycemic stuff. And the other things that I want you to also focus on are all the other things that we keep coming up. We keep learning new things. Alcohol, we've known it for years, but somehow, if you have it once in a blue moon, we act like it's doing nothing. Everything we take into our body is doing something, Wellness Warrior. So let's be really, really careful. And let's not allow alcohol to come in and damage our body for no reason. Seed oils. Again, Dr. Berry helped me to understand that seed oils are not even food. We should not be consuming seed oils, which unfortunately, a lot of these things have seed oils in them. A lot of sauces and stuff we find in the center aisles of the grocery stores have seed oils in them. So please, again, be careful with those things. And of course, we're back to the dairy, right? If we keep allowing these things into our diet, then if we're gonna struggle, we're gonna suffer, we're gonna have problems. We're gonna be damaging our body faster than need be. When it comes to dairy, I want to point out that there is a hierarchy, and the most damaging to us are the cheeses and the milks, right? More casomorphin and sugar levels in the cheeses and the milks, right? Compared to if you go down to like the heavy creams and what, yes, much less, which is why I think on the keto diet, they were pushed so hard. Not zero, but much less. So if you're doing keto, this might actually be an option that you decide to leave there if it doesn't make you chase. And because I mean, obviously, if you're doing keto, you are still in consuming carbohydrates. Much less likely that the issue that I lived is impacting you because you're still letting carbohydrates in. So you're probably fine with cream. But for those of you who are doing carnivore and still find yourself chasey and you don't understand why, if you still drink, look at that. If you're still allowing seed oils in, look at that. And if you are doing dairy, even heavy cream, look at that. It could be impacting you. Now, I will say that butter has trace amounts of casomorphin. So if you are a person who's chasing, you probably want to look at butter too, because you might have already let go of heavy cream because you figured out that it was causing you a problem. But if you still use butter and find yourself chasing, you might still have that to contend with. And the other thing that I'm going to say that might be helpful to people who are in that. So what I want to say is the other thing is that if you can't use butter, but you want another oil, there's lard, there's beef tallow, but we still have ghee. So when we process ghee, and I'm talking about make it at home, right? I'm telling you, I don't trust companies to make anything for me anymore. Making ghee at home is so easy. All you do is you're just boiling your butter until you kind of process out all the protein, and you just skim it off the top, you toss that away, and the actual oil that's left over has no protein in it anymore. And so therefore your body's not breaking it down into casomorphin. So that's something that you can do if you want to have, if you want to use that kind of oil, right? So you can use ghee instead of using butter. The next step that I want to give you here, so there's two parts to this, allow yourself to face the issues in your life. And then, of course, solve them. This is a huge task. And the reason I say solve them, I know a lot of people that they think on their problems and they ruminate on their problems and they look at their problems and they're watching their problems, but they're not actually doing anything active to solve the problem. If you want the issue to go away, you need to do something. Change something, say something, make something, move something. You need to do something that causes the problem to no longer be a problem. But ruminating on it, arguing about it back and forth and it never changing might mean that this situation with this person is going to be this, and you might need to then not interact with this person, for example. But you need to do something that changes the situation. I acknowledge that this is a huge task, Wellness Warrior, and it will take practice, and it will take repeating it and doing it and right over and over and over. But it is the only answer that makes any kind of sense. If you don't find a way to change the situation, change the event, change the mindset, change the action, change whatever it is, then the problem will be in your life and you will keep living negative emotions, and you will therefore keep wanting to self-soothe with food. Avoiding our problems means that we continue to be controlled by our problems, means that we keep eating the thing that's making our life miserable. And that's not what any of us want. So, the most important thing that I want you to take away from today's video is that a little bit of a trigger is still a trigger, Wellness Warrior. When our body reacts to that trigger appropriately by releasing dopamine or whatever else, and we're feeling good and whatever, and then we shouldn't be surprised by that. We shouldn't be surprised that we end up chasing. We shouldn't be like we are giving our body the thing that is keeping us in the twist, and then we're upset with our body. No, don't be upset with our body. Look at the action that you're taking and fix it, right? And we have to understand that we get used to things. If I'm having a certain amount of casomorphin, at some point my brain is going to give me that little bit, oh, you could put more than that. At some point, right? And we need to see that. When that happens, oh, you need to understand, right? That whole idea of carb creep, right? I had one serving of nuts, my story, right? My story. And then after a while, I noticed I'm having 2 servings of nuts. By the time I was at like 4 servings of nuts, like, what the hell is going on? Like, why am I having so much? And I had to realize that no, it's getting me. That's why I don't eat nuts anymore. I saw the problem, and the solution was, okay, I'm putting that down. That's not food for me anymore, because look at what's happening. I'm not in control. The food is controlling me. That's not good. And another example I can give you, and this one I think everybody can relate to. If you think about the fact that you used to be extremely excited by the idea of going on a date with your spouse, right? You'd be, okay, like it was excitement au max. And then you're with that person for how long? For 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, however long you've been with your spouse. Matter of fact, this could happen even after 1 year. Yes, we're happy to go on a date, but it's not the same level of excitement that it was in the first month of going on a date with that person. Why? Because you got used to it. We go out, we have a lovely conversation, and it's fun, but it's not, ooh, it's normal fun. And we think that means something bad. No, it's normal. We get used to everything in life, Wellness Warrior. But understand something. We will all at some point live this, whether it's you break up with that person or the person passes. The day the person isn't there anymore, ah, your heart hurts. Your heart hurts. It feels horrible, right? And some people have poor reactions to that. Some people engage in bad behavior when this kind of stuff happens. Whether it's bad behavior with other people or it's bad behavior going to other self-soothing. I eat something, I drink something, I do my old self-soothing habits. At the end of the day, it hits you like a ton of bricks that this person that I cared about so much is not there anymore. Whenever we take something away that has been with us and helped us to feel normal for years, a hole is left behind. We feel the absence of the oxytocin when it comes to a spouse, or the dopamine, serotonin, blah, 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 and all the whatever other things that happen when we're, depending on what we're touching, because it's just not there anymore. That person or that thing that we were engaging with was giving us something, whether we recognized it was that important to our stability or not, it was there. If you're struggling with sticking to healthy eating, please verify if there's something in your diet that could be triggering you, that could be pushing you to eat off plan. Because if you don't verify, you're not going to know. Right? And the next video that you're going to watch after this one is going to be the one where about how companies have tricked us into wanting the convenience over being healthy. Because honestly, I feel like that's the other piece of the puzzle that we get confused about. Like, we don't see that whenever they offer us the convenience of this kind of stuff, they're just tricking us into harming our body and needing them more, because now when I'm actually sick, do I have time to cook? No, I don't want to cook even. problematic. Okay. Okay, let's go into the comments. And well, first of all, once where I am so extremely ecstatic that all of you are here with me. Hello. I want to say my hellos. And I just realized that, yeah, I didn't set myself up completely today, but let's go. I'm going to just increase my size so I can see this more easily. Okay. So, good morning, K-Day. Nice to have you here. Let me just adjust myself a little bit. Nice to have you here. Hope that wasn't too loud for you guys. And then I have, oh my goodness, Louise. Hello. Nice to have you here. So, love, love, love. Thank you. And thank you very much. The question that you have for us, you love myself and Patrick. I really appreciate that. Um, Violet, love coffee, but I had to drink, but I can't drink it without a cup and a half of cream. That okay. I'm obviously you're exaggerating. A cup and a half of cream. You're obviously exaggerating, but I get your point. I can tell you that for myself as well. I had a really hard time um, drinking my coffee with like nothing in it. I did get used to it. I did get used to it, but it takes some practice. But you're saying, okay, so without a cup and a half of cream, but the cream stalls me and makes me crave. What's your coffee recipe? Yeah, you know what, Wellness Warrior? I have a favor to ask of you guys. And so you guys are the ones that are here, so I'm going to ask you. I need a way to label the new thing that I'm drinking, and I will get to that in a minute. Or maybe, no, I'm not going to get to that in a minute. I'm going to tell you in the next video. I'm going to tell you in the video where I talk about it. So maybe I shouldn't have brought that up here. But I'm not drinking coffee anymore. It was the reason that I want to get rid of the heavy cream is because I was just kind of trying to get myself to a place of not drinking coffee. And then I thought, well, if I remove coffee, like one shot, so coffee and heavy cream, how could I be sure that any changes that happened were strictly because I removed the coffee? And so I took the time to remove the heavy cream first and then remove the coffee, which I'm happy that I did it that way because I did learn that, yes, the heavy cream was also impacting something. So that is, at least from, in my opinion, that was immensely important for me to see. That being said, my coffee, when I was not using heavy cream, K-Day, was my normal coffee, but I would make, and I should make a short about this so that I can share it with you guys properly how I was doing this. But I always drink espresso based coffees. Since I started drinking coffee, I switched from, I don't remember how many years it took me, maybe 2 years into drinking coffee. I switched from percolator style, I guess it would be called, to espresso based. And so I always had steamed milk at the beginning with steamed milk, and then it was steamed heavy cream. So I was doing that. And then what I decided to do, because I always was putting heavy cream and a little bit of butter in my steamed milk, or so not steamed milk, in my it was heavy cream, butter, water. And I was steaming that for my coffee. And all I did was take away the heavy cream. So let's start there. I did that at home. I would just make my coffee that way. But the days that I had to go to the office, I don't have an espresso machine at the office. So in the past, at the office, I would have had regular coffee. So it was not an espresso coffee. So at the office, I was having pour overs. I really did move away from percolator coffee. So I was having fresh ground pour over coffee at the office. And then I would add heavy cream, no butter. So when I was going to the office, I'm like, okay, how am I doing this? Because that's not going to work. So, and drinking black coffee, I can do it. I've done it before, but not my favorite. So what I did was I was making my pour over coffee and I was putting I was bringing with me to the office my butter, and I was making it in those Contigo travel mugs, but any travel mug would do. Those are the kinds that I have. And basically, I would make my coffee, and then I would just shake it, and I would just shake it and shake it and shake it until it was the butter was all melted. And it wasn't the same as doing it with my espresso machine, but it was good enough. It was good enough. And so that's what I did. So that's my recipe, honestly. And I was putting, how much butter was I putting? I was putting 45 grams of butter, which the reason for that, again, like if I'm doing full transparency here, the reason for that is you have to keep in mind that I like my current weight. And so I'm trying to stay stable at this current weight. And I mean, even though I'll eat to my fill, if I don't add a little bit of butter to my day, I still seem to be losing weight. And so that's my story. That's the reason I'm doing it. You guys can play with your butter amount dependent on what you're trying to accomplish. So that was the reason for my meal, for my coffee. Good morning, Bride Biscuit. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you. Let's see. So Katie says, um, so I'm day 12, carnivore, but binge on cheese 2 days ago. Had a stressful day, but hmm, do you have a video on how to know when your body is adapted? I'm pretty sure I probably do. I'm not sure what it's called. I'm not that organized. I probably should be. I'm not that organized. Maybe one day I'll get that sorted out. What I would say is the best way that you can tell that so your body is adapted. The interesting thing is we adapt and then can not be adapted really, really quickly and easily because it really depends on what you eat. So for example, um, I would say probably if you eat on plan, and you said you were doing this for 12 days. So if you eat on plan every day for like 2 weeks, chances are very good that you're going to be fine. The problem is that do not be fooled that being adapted means that you could never be psychologically triggered to eat something. Because yes, our body will be fine and we won't be getting those pangs that cause us to want to eat off plan. However, just because I don't get a pang that asks me to eat off plan doesn't mean that my body isn't going to want me to eat off plan, or sorry, my mind isn't going to ask me to eat something off plan, right? Because I want us to understand that, and how would I say that? I want us to understand that our our mind interacts with the entire world. Like our mind interacts with everything that we're doing. And so if if I feel like I want to eat something and I don't let myself, so like let's say I'm out with people and they're eating off plan and then I'm like, "Oh, like that looks fun." And so if I still have internal language that makes me treat like this stuff like food, makes me treat pizza like food, if I still have internal language that tells me that there's nothing wrong with eating these kind of things, then I'll eat it. So some of this is about mindset and some of this is about the physiological, like, is my body pushing me to go get this stuff? Or is it that I have ideas that push me to go get this stuff? And then of course there's crossover between those, right? So I don't want you to necessarily look at it strictly from the perspective of it's like one or the other. We need to understand that both things are immensely important. And yeah, like there is something to taking decisions, which is another thing that I want to put out there is that a lot of times we're eating for fun, and we might even know that we're eating for fun, and we just don't take the moment to address that we're doing that. We don't let ourselves We don't let ourselves really focus in on what does it mean to put my health first. And the same way that what it meant to put your family first. So if we look at that for a second, there are a lot of us who, for years and years and years, um, didn't go out partying, didn't go out to, like we didn't stay at the bar late or whatever. Like we stopped doing the things that we used to do that we definitely might have thought were fun back in the day because it was better for our family. Like our kids are young, they want to see us, we want to see them. The kids are young, maybe your husband or your wife needs the help at home. So you finish work and you go home and you do the thing. And yeah, like so you know what I mean? Like I want us to understand that when we do the right thing for our body, when we do the right thing for our health, when we do the right thing, like these are the things that in the end means that we took a decision and said, this is what matters to me going forward. I'm doing it. And then we do it. So I think that's the best thing I can say in this situation, that it really is about, yeah, it really is about taking a decision and realizing that it's hard. That's the other part too. When we take decisions, it's hard to follow through on things, especially if we're so used to following, let's say, if I'm used to doing whatever my husband does, and then all of a sudden I'm not doing that, the first few times it's going to be tricky. I'm going to be like, whoa, okay, he's eating that and I'm eating this. But I'll tell you, I lived that with Pat. I did keto by myself the first, I would say, 5-ish months before he joined me. And yeah, like maybe it was 3 months. I'm not sure, but it was a good period of time. And I think, no, I think by the time I hit my goal weight, he had already started. So I want to say maybe, but it was a good amount of time, like at least 3 months, maybe up to 5. I'm not sure when it was, but like that meant that when, if he decided to have dessert with the kids, I was watching them have dessert, right? How many times did we go to Dairy Queen? Because I'd started my keto journey in, yeah, I started my keto journey in April, and we went through a good, I don't know even know if in the summer he had started yet. So we went through a good portion of time. So yeah, and he hadn't started yet. Right, that makes sense. Yeah. Because I remember we went to ice cream so many times and I didn't have ice cream. I had at the time I was still drinking diet soda, so I think I had a diet soda maybe some of the times. Some of the times, depending on the time of day, I had a coffee. But yeah, so like again, so many things that that we did together where I wasn't behaving like them. It was hard. It was hard. So it's not just about your body being adapted. There's a psychological piece of the puzzle, but it got easier. So I want to point that out. The first few times that I went with them and they were doing something that I wasn't doing, it was like, whoa, okay, I'm not doing that. And I had to figure myself out. But I will tell you, like a few weeks into that summer, I was doing it easily because I was committed to what I was doing. I was already feeling better, which is the other part of the story. By that point, we'd gone climbing and we were doing the tree to tree climbing at that point. We hadn't started the bouldering yet, but we had done so many things and I was able to do it. So again, going back to people who don't know my story, I started keto because of my hip issue and I was on the path to hip surgery and all kinds of stupidness. And within 3 months, my hip was no longer hurting me. So it went from on the path to surgery to my hip feeling better. So I was really bought in by that point. And like these little things that were happening, I was fine. I was like, you know what? I'll be all right. I'd rather not have the ice cream and I'd rather be able to do the stuff I'm doing. I was longboarding again, riding my bike, riding my scooters. I was having so much fun that not eating the junk was fine for me. Let's see. Thank you for this timely discussion. I'm at goal weight and reintroduced dairy, and in no time cravings returned. Lucas, I'm so happy that this information found you at the right time, and I hope that You can make a great decision and figure this out. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. I truly do appreciate it. So Kay says, um, I was pre-diabetic, drinking a cup and a half of cream in coffee sometimes twice a day. So you're actually doubling down on that. You were actually putting that much. Well, I know people who like cafe au lait. So that's like where it's like you're kind of putting coffee in milk rather than making a coffee and adding milk. So maybe I do understand what you're talking about. And for me, K-Day, this goes back to the misinformation that we're given, right? There's no problem. Heavy cream has no sugar in it. Da, da, da. Heavy cream has sugar in it. So you might not even just be chasing because of the casomorphins. Likely you're also chasing because at that level, now you've increased the amount of sugar in your diet as well. And your body, like, so you like, will you be triggered dopamine wise? I would imagine yes. So, like, haven't drank coffee because I can't drink it without cream for 2 months now. And you know what? I will encourage you to reframe that because I feel like the way that you're saying that, it makes you feel like you're missing out on something. How about I'm not drinking coffee because when I do drink coffee and end up having cream in it, it's harming my health, right? I would rather have the good health and put coffee down. I would rather have the good health and drink water or drink something else, right? So I feel like if you reframe that for yourself, K-Day, then you won't even need to figure out a way to make my coffee that I was making. And by the way, for everyone who missed the whole point of the video that I made, the reason I took dairy out was because I'm taking coffee. I have taken coffee out. It's more than I took coffee out before Christmas. So it's more than 2 weeks I haven't had coffee. And yay, I'm happy about that. So, like, I feel like we are so used to self-soothing with food. We are so used to entertaining ourselves with food. We are so used to all these things that they have taught us are normal to do, that even when we're trying to do the good thing for ourselves, we're trying to keep the bad thing around, right? How can I do this but still do that? And the answer is we can't, right? If it triggers my body, it triggered my body. My body will react. And if it's something that my body can get used to, it will get used to it. And then it will slowly, slowly push me to have more. And I probably won't notice it until, like myself, where I'm like, wow, I used to have this much and now I'm having this much. Problem. And then I back it up, right? It's about paying attention. It's about understanding why I'm doing what I'm doing and keeping myself at a good place. So I again hope this is being helpful for everyone. Let's go through all these questions if I can today. So Ian, sorry, I don't know how to say your name. I am so sorry. I want to say that it's Ian, so I'm just going to stop at Ian because that's a name that I do recognize. And if there's more to the name, I apologize. So you are too much focus on a few carbs. Protein will still stimulate insulin release enough to store all the extra fats your body won't use. So here's the problem, Ian, and I keep hearing people say that, and I'm gonna run first Dr. Fung here, because Dr. Fung has pointed out, first of all, that our body is not going to store anything unless we overeat it. And Dr. Lehman helped me to understand that we need the amount of protein that relates to our body, our healthy body weights, protein, like, so lean body mass, lean body mass. So between these two doctors, and I've heard other doctors and other, people talk about this, we keep falling for the story that food companies try to throw out there to scare us away from eating healthy protein. And it's just not reality. So Dr. Fung very carefully pointed out that your body has zero reason to break down protein, to turn it into sugar, or or to store protein as fat when your body needs it for repair and whatever, first of all. But Dr. Lehman completely changed my mind around on that one when he said that for the amount of healthy lean body mass that you're supposed to have, that's for 1 pound, for 1 gram of protein is 1 pound. So if I'm supposed to have a lean body mass of 100 pounds, then I should be eating 100 grams of protein. That's not the amount of meat. So let's be careful. It's the amount of protein in the meat, which he completely explained. And he said, we are severely under eating the amount of protein that we're supposed to eat. And my life has proved that out. I was eating not enough protein. I was feeling fine, by the way. I was at my healthy weight and I was feeling absolutely fine. No issues, no problems, no anything. And I went on vacation. On vacation, they did not have any vegetation that looked safe for me to eat. So I had to, on vacation, live a carnivore week because there was no vegetation there that I could ingest. So I lived my carnivore week. And because I was living that carnivore week, what ended up happening was because most of the meats they were serving in the meals, so suppers, because I was 1 meal a day at that point, were lean meats, I had to find a way to get my fat in. So in the morning, I would have breakfast, eggs and bacon. And then in the evenings, I would have whatever meat I was going to have. So I actually ended up eating more on that holiday than I normally would. My thought process when I came back was that I would have gained weight. And in reality, I had actually lost weight. And for those of you who are going to say, oh, but you were sweating a lot and all kinds of, I'll be honest with you. I was in air conditioning. This was not a vacation where I put myself in a position where I like most of the time my temperature was fine and I'm not the run around and exercising all the time scenario, although we did do some exercise. But again, as I've talked about on this channel a bajillion times, exercise is not what causes you to lose weight. It's what you eat. So could I have lost a little water weight? Sure, that's possible. However, I know that that wasn't the part of the positive there, because when I came back and saw that, and I did more research and found Dr. Lehman and other doctors talking about that, yes, you need the right amount of protein, blah, blah, blah. And that's how I learned all that. I upped the amount of protein that I was eating and I continued to eat that moving forward, did not put on any weight. So I ended up living my life moving forward, that 5 pounds left. It didn't bother me. It was only 5 pounds. And again, I feel like I look fine, but that was completely accidental weight loss based on me eating more protein, not less. So again, and I've continued moving forward. That, how many years ago was that I went on that vacation? Probably 3, 4 by now. Trying to remember what year it was in, but I can't remember, can't put my finger on it right now. But still feeling, so anyways, that's my point. So, and yeah. So let's see, Mary T says, keto every day. That's great. You're still here. Oh, I used to watch you all the time when I first started this journey 8 years ago. You started your journey around when I started my journey. That's cool. I'm still here too. Everything I eat, I make from scratch. Excellent. No longer is food my fun. Food is fuel. Love that. And you're still saying that. I love it. I used to say that all the time. Food, eat for, do activities for fun and eat food for fuel. And I'm so happy to hear that you're still saying that. That's amazing, Mary. Thank you for taking the time to let me know that you're still doing it, and that I had a little piece of the puzzle of, actually, I'm going to add your name to the people that, I didn't talk about this today. One of the things I'm trying to do is know for sure that I have helped 1,000 people improve their health. And Mary, I hope that's what you're saying to me, so I can add your name to my list, because I want to have a shirt, this is my goal, that has like everybody's name on it. And I'm in the process of making one now that I've made it to, I think I hit 30 the other day, and I'm like, I'm starting my shirt. So I'm going to make one with 30, and then, or maybe I'll make one with 31 since I have a new person, but I'm going to make one with the numbers of the people that I have right now. And then the next level, I will make one at 100. And then it'll be the every 100 after that. And I'm just excited to know that there are people that I've helped in this way. And I want to scream it to the world. And I think it'd be cool if I just had a shirt that I could wear when and just share that these people I have impacted, and that their good health, they're on this journey, right? I just, that's going to motivate me, because I think when I have 1,000 people on that shirt, I'm just going to be extremely happy. So, Mary, with your permission, I hope I can add your name to the shirt. I would really love it. Raven Blackwood, I'm so glad I finally caught the live. Have been in because I'm usually working, but so glad to see you all again. I'm so glad you're here, Raven, as well. Thanks for joining. Um, I've been following you for years and enjoyed your videos. I still watch the video interview you did last year. Oh, still that we did last year after the holidays. I can look back at myself then and see that I was not yet at goal weight. Interesting. That's cool to know that you're still looking at those. That okay, that would have been on your channel. I get it. Just clicked in. And you're saying good morning to everyone. Thank you for chatting with us. I really appreciate it. Kate, facts. Violet, I tell my fiance and family this about fruit. Sugar bombs, oh my goodness. Yeah. They are brainwashed to think grapes couldn't be. Yeah, it's frustrating to me how good the food industry has been at making us believe that fruit is healthy. I'm super impressed with RFK keeping his promise that he was going to tackle the food stuff. I honestly didn't think it was going to happen. I'm being very transparent with you. I didn't think it was going to happen. I thought that that was just a game he was playing and that it would never come to fruition just to get into office, you know? But he did it. He's doing it. And so I really want to see what the next 10 years are going to look like now that this information is starting to be put into the mainstream in a real way, in a I would want to say a more aggressive way. This is amazing. So I'm excited for this. I think that life is going to hopefully change. I'm always cautiously enthusiastic because companies will find other ways to get us, as we see with this kind of stuff. They find other ways to get us and make us think that they got our back, when in fact they're just finding a new way to make us eat stupidity. So, Zeus, love your content. Thank you for everything. I appreciate you, Zeus, and thank you. K-Day edit. Facts, Miss Violet. I did read it correctly. Um, I learned the berry and fructose lesson by eating a handful of raspberries on my own vines every day until my hips started to hurt, and then the bell went off. Okay, okay. I mean, honestly, they were on your own vines. That's another thing that I will say, is that we're often told, oh, grow it in your garden and you're going to avoid the pesticides and whatever, which is true. Like, less pesticides is an absolutely good thing for us all to aim at. Problem, uh, we still have to face the fact that when it comes to like eating high levels of sugar, no matter what the like high levels of fructose, I'm sorry, no matter what the source, whether it's like the pesticides aren't just the thing. It's so weird. They get us to refocus our energy on pesticides. They get us to refocus, and pesticides are bad. So let's just start there. But they get us to focus on the pesticides so that we are so looking for the organic and da da da, that we're not realizing that organic triggering, damaging stuff is still triggering, damaging stuff. So thanks for sharing that. Don't know if I needed to say that much on it, but here we go. Since you switched to carnivore, I know you have experimented eating red meat to see if you. I have not switch. I have not. So no, I haven't tried to see if I could tolerate it at all. Um, I would love to, but I haven't touched it at all. So one of the things that accidentally happened, Raven, that I will share with you is that I can't remember what I accidentally took a bite of ground beef. So my kids and my spouse can eat beef. I can't. I don't even know. I wasn't paying attention. And I went to take a bit of the ground pork and I took the ground beef. Realized it right away because in my mouth, it was like metallic. So I spit that out, but it gave me new data because I hadn't eaten red meat since I was, I would say 21 ish. So that was shocking to me to like to see that, wow, I actually it was not good. So I wasn't expecting that. And it made me think about Michael Moss's book. I can't remember the name of the book right now, but Michael Moss has a book where he talked about going to the factory where they make processed foods. I can't remember, was it Kraft? I can't remember which one it was, but one of the big companies, I think it's also where they make Cheez-Its. So that might be Kraft because you mentioned Cheez-Its specifically. Anyways, they were trying a bunch of different stuff. And he put, the person beside him put the cereal in her mouth and it tasted like metal to her. And not everyone around the table had that reaction. And the person said, oh, like when yeah, some people can taste different things. And so for some reason, when I ate the ground beef a few years ago, I didn't eat it, but when I put it in my mouth, it had a metallic-y something happening that I did spit it out. It was not even something that I would swallow. So K-Day says, dairy, especially heavy cream and cheese, seed oils, butter for me. Yeah, so I mean there are lots of things that we need to avoid. I haven't actually tried using like ghee in my coffee instead of butter, and now that I don't, or had I done that years ago? No, you know what I had? I remember it gave it a nutty flavor when I had, yeah, I had tried that years ago. Wow, that's a memory coming back to me at this moment. Um, it gave it this kind of nutty flavor because the coffee that I normally buy doesn't have a nutty flavor. It's more like it was more of a chocolatey flavor to the, I mean chocolate obviously, right? Had a chocolatey, again, for those of you who don't know, that was my kryptonite. And so yeah, it added this nuttiness to it, which I did like, but not enough to do it all the time, but I did like it. Nutritional deficiencies can lead to thalassemia. Not that I know of. So what was explained to me was that it was just something that I was born with, and this happening at the blood level. That's what was explained to me. Do I fully believe them at this point? No. And part of the reason that I'm even thinking about someday testing, like far down the road when I feel like my body is healed, testing it, is because Dr. Chafee was really confused about why having thalassemia would stop me from being able to eat red meat. He didn't think it was related and it shouldn't have had an impact. I can tell you that when I was eating red meat versus when I wasn't eating red meat, the difference in my menstrual cycles was enormous. First of all, I had the most painful cramps. I had the most like debilitating headaches. And as soon as I stopped eating red meat, gone. And made my dad makes the best spaghetti sauce. And back before I went keto, um, so or to say back before I really, really, really decided like, no, I'm done with red meat. Every once in a while, I would have spaghetti sauce at my parents' place, and of course there was ground beef in it. And what I started to realize was that, and I only noticed this when I moved out, on the times that I went home for supper, and it happened to be spaghetti, that month menstruation was horrible. It might not have been at the level where I was like couldn't go to work, but it was horrible. And then when I would go when I would not be in any of those occasions where they had spaghetti sauce, those months were fine. And so I started to piece it together that even the amount that's in ground the amount that's in spaghetti sauce was too much for me. So I started to actually my dad just made me a batch that was um with ground pork and I was fine. But if I went there and like he didn't know I was coming or whatever, he would I would just not have any. I would have something else. Um but yeah, so like I don't think that this is something that was related to my food, but again, maybe it is and I just don't know. Right? That's always possible that there's elements of this that I just don't get yet. So Raven says, I definitely had to pound into my head that cheeses have casomorphin and it was making me chase more than cheese. Sorry. Okay. My body is telling me when I eat something wrong. Okay, so I think you're saying, yeah, so I mean like it's making you chase more than the sugar in the cheese, I guess what you're saying. And yeah, I mean, I'm glad that you figured that out because obviously we don't want to be stuck in those kind of situations where we're constantly eating things that are putting us off track. I've also been struggling about how much protein my own female menopausal body needs. Since I eat only meat a day and I eat till full, I tend to overeat the protein but not the fat. So, okay, that's interesting to me because we are in an interesting position with the way that meat is made today. So the way that meat is processed today, let me rephrase that, where we have the ability to eat muscle meat and almost no associated fat. What I tend to do, and I do it a few different ways. So when I'm eating chicken, I've learned to eat the skin off the chicken and I eat like all those little pockets of fat that are on the chicken. Like I try my best not to take any of that off. And what I've noticed is that when I just eat it and I don't pay attention to like what bits and pieces I'm getting of whatever, once I'm chewing it up and it all mixes together, I don't even notice it, first of all. So that's part one of what I do. When I eat pork, and I mean, obviously, when you eat ground pork, you don't have a choice. The fat's all mixed in there. And so that's easy. But when I eat pork chops or any other cut of pork, what I will tend to do is make sure that I'm eating the fatty parts as well. So I just make sure I do that. And I try not to buy meat that doesn't have enough fat on it. So when I buy my pork chops, I go to the butcher shop and I'm picking individual ones, which we can do at our butcher shop. So I will pick the ones that have the nicest like pieces on the outside and the ones that look the darkest because they tend to be like fattier and whatever. So that's what I will do for myself. And then the other thing that I do to make sure I get enough fat in is I usually will slowly fry my meats. I like frying my pork chops in butter, but I also use lard. I also use tallow. Like I basically just, and actually a lot of people talk about like eating the same thing every day. Your food tastes different when you fry it in different oils. It's a rare occasion that I will ever boil anything. Um, yeah, I don't boil much. And then even with that, when I use butter to fry my pork chops, um, I will like a lot, like I don't overdo it, but I will also use the butter that was in the pan. So I'll just like put it all in my plate and I eat everything, right? So I think there are ways. I also do eat eggs, so I'm getting enough fat there too. Like often I'll have eggs with each meal. I have at least 4 eggs when I'm having eggs. And I add that to like every occasionally I won't have the eggs. Like if I'm just like I'm kind of hungry, but I'm not super hungry, then I won't have the eggs. Like last night, I was hungry, but I wasn't super hungry. Didn't have my eggs. So these are things that we can do to make sure we get enough fat in. And so when you're talking about protein needs, as I said, Dr. Lehman said that we need to have the amount of protein for the lean body mass we're aiming at. And that's not related to age. And I want to like give you the example where like like I have a cat and I had a dog before that. And for both of those animals, when you look up how much to feed your animal, they're right away asking you, what's the age? What's the weight of the age of the animal? Oh my God, can't speak. What's the weight of the full grown animal supposed to be? So like what type of dog is it and what will like what poundage are we thinking it's going to be? And you guesstimate based on, okay, it's a Wheaten Terrier, the parents were this weight, so we think it's going to be this. And for my cat, who is currently a kitten, its two parents were like these weights, so I'm guesstimating it's going to be about 26-ish pounds, like just based on the parents. And so, but that's lean, like, so like I want my cat to be muscular and lean. I don't want it to be fat. So I'm aiming at feeding it meat, fish, poultry. It does have eggs occasionally. I'm feeding it the healthiest stuff I can feed it. Why? Because I want it to be the healthiest it can possibly be. So Dr. Lehman is encouraging us, focus your energy on getting the right amount of protein. And as he said, those guidelines, those I think he said they're ADA guidelines, but those nutrition guidelines that we have is about the minimum amount you need to not be sick. Right? That's what Dr. Lehman teaches us. It's not about what you actually need to be healthy. And I honestly think that we need to take that seriously. We want to eat what we need to have to be healthy. When it comes to our animals, that's what the vet is aiming us at. My puppy and my cat, both of them, and my kitten right now, both started off eating the amount that they ate throughout their lives. Right? So it didn't, like, not like with us and our kids where they're eating a little bit and then no, the animal starts off eating the amount and it's throughout their lives, right? I started off doing it in 3 meals because he couldn't get it in. Well, at least my cat, he couldn't get it in 2 meals. Now we're good at 2 meals. He can finish his plate breakfast. He can finish his plate at supper. So great. But I know some people that they do their animal 1 meal. Like, I don't know if my cat will get to the point where 1 meal works better for him. But at the end of the day, like, because he couldn't get it in 2 meals, I was doing 3. So I'm going back to what was that other person's comment about too much protein. Like, you really do need to overeat your protein. And I'm not even talking about whether you're working out yet or not, right? If you're working out, Dr. Lehman says you need more. So just to give you some numbers, Raven, Dr. Lehman said that the average woman should be getting 1 pound of protein for good goal weight, like lean body mass, good goal, like that. So the lean body mass of your goal weight. So that puts most of us somewhere that we need to be somewhere between like 90 and 120 grams of protein, right? Depending on how tall we are. And it has nothing to do with age. Your lean body mass is your lean body mass, that like what it should have been, right? So, and then if we're talking about working out women, he's like, you might need to go up to 1.25 to 1.5, depending on how much of a workout you do. Light workouts like 1.25, even 1.2, he said. But if you're like hitting those boxing, or you're kickboxing, or if you're doing those, like if you're doing like really intense working out, he's like, you might even need 1.5. So I do think that most of us we're under eating our protein and not understanding why our health is not doing what we want it to do. Hey, Pat, glad that you were able to make it. Saying hello to Patrick. Let's see. Looks like I missed the main presentation. We'll have to, oh yeah. Okay. Um, he's so funny. Perfect. Let me just double checking. Okay. So Chris Hill says, great discussion, Violet. So having a coffee with a tablespoon of butter shouldn't affect your brain in the same way as coffee with heavy cream. From what I'm understanding of the difference in casomorphin, it's a less of a, but again, don't forget there's traces in there. One thing that I will point out when we talk about this idea of trace amounts of stuff. So when I first found out that I had a problem with nightshades, um, when I did all my research on it, everything that I was reading was saying that no, the solanine and all the other toxins in nightshades is not at a high enough level to impact humans. But yet, I had found loads and loads of people in different Reddits, in different online whatever, saying even though they keep saying that these things don't impact us, like it's not enough to impact humans, they were having reactions. They were saying that the smallest amount of whether it's paprika or tomato or eggplant or whatever was causing them to react. So trace amounts, what's a trace amount for example, Pat, and what's a trace amount for me is not necessarily the same, right? And he doesn't seem to have issues with nightshades where I do. And because I have issues with nightshades, then I have to be careful and not let myself like not pay attention to menus and whatnot, and actually, verify if I should be eating these things or not. So, or verify if these things are in it so that I can know if I should eat that meal or not. So I do think, from what I'm being told, that for people who have an issue with the heavy cream, butter is an option that might work for you. At the same time, you need to pay attention and see when you start chasing, because that's the other part of the story. Like, you actually could start chasing, or you could actually like start seeing the creep. Like, if I was really paying attention to it, I probably would have noticed, because if I think back, in order to get the flavor that I wanted, I always put 30 grams of heavy cream. That never changed. But if I think back on it, when I got to 45, because I was doing 45 grams of heavy cream at one point, that should have said to me, hey, something's changing here. I didn't pay enough attention to it. Again, we're so programmed to think that there's no reason that we can't have heavy cream. I knew the carb count. It was under my 18. Everything in my mind was telling me this is fine to do. Now I know what I know. And as I know things, I'm going to keep sharing them with you guys. Let's see. Cool, saying hi to each other. Cool, saying hi to each other. Oh, yo. Thanks for letting me know. Okay, cool. Nice. Okay, keep in mind Violet is dual streaming, so they're okay, no problem. Uh, Last question, Violet. Do you still track? I know you're exhausted with this question, but what's a normal day with what do you eat? Um, Go for food and protein. Thanks. Go to food and protein. Thanks in advance. So it's easy for me to track now. So I can actually say that I still do track because what I'm tracking is easy to track. And it's like, do I track in the sense that I put it in a calculator? No, I don't need to do that anymore because what I'm eating is so clearly obvious. It is what it is. So I can tell you, for example, I eat one, okay, I shouldn't say one. I eat between 400 and 450 grams grams of ground beef. Sorry, pork. Oh my gosh. I'm thinking too hard. I eat between 400 and 450 grams of ground pork when I have a ground pork meal. And with that, I'm likely going to have 4 eggs. I'm going to have 4 chicken thighs, which when you weigh them comes out to about a pound when I have chicken thighs, and I have 4 eggs. Now, if they're really big, I'm going to weigh them and like take one out so that it's about for a pound, right? 454 makes a pound. So if they're really big, I'll weigh them out and say, and I'll just take 3 that come up to around that. So anywhere between 400 and 450, I'm cool with that. It doesn't have to be exact 454. When it comes to and the eggs, like, of course, it's easy. There's 4. When it comes to pork chops or any kind of pork, it's the same thing. I eat about a pound. So anywhere between 400 and 450, and I will have eggs with that. Now, the only occasions where I don't have the eggs is because I'm hungry, but I'm not like normal hungry. I'm feeling less hungry than typical. That can happen to me I would say maybe every other week, every third week, I'll be like, yeah, I don't feel like having the eggs. Now, sometimes I'm just, and I've said this a million times, I'm a lazy cook. I don't like cooking. So, like, this is me. Sometimes I will skip the eggs just because I don't want to take the extra few minutes to cook the eggs. Is that ideal? No, it's not. I usually do that when whatever meat I'm eating, I can see like there's a lot of fat on that. I'm not worried about my fat intake for that day. I'll skip it. If there's not a lot of fat, I'm gonna make the eggs, right? And for me, it's not about making two or one or what. If I'm making one, I'll make four. It doesn't make sense for me to cut down on my eggs at that point. If I'm making one, I'm making four because it really is about, do I feel like taking the time to make it? And I put salt on everything. I salt everything to taste. My salt intake is much higher than Pat's. So I usually separate our stuff and I cook mine separately from his because the amount of salt I'm going to put on my food, he does not manage. And again, I go back to what I learned from Dr. Barry and Dr. Oh, I can't remember the other guy's name, but they both pointed out that you salt your food to taste. Nicolandino, Dr. Nicolandino, salting your food to taste is how you'll know that you're getting enough, is what they pointed out, because your body won't ask you for more salt than it needs, apparently. And that's been my experience. Like, I've tasted things that were too salty, that I was just like, whoa, that's too much salt, right? I've accidentally oversalted my own food. I was like, I thought I wanted that much. I didn't want that much. It was too much, right? So, like, I try my best to err on the side of less salt because I can always add more after if I'm eating it, I'm like, oh, that wasn't enough, and I'll add a bit more. But yeah, so let's see. You missed the Pat chats. Thank you very much. We keep saying we're going to do another one, and then we don't get around to it. Trying to do a lot on of other things. But thank you for letting us know. And actually, I mentioned the fact that I'm doing the T-shirt with the names, but I also want to show you guys today that I have a new T-shirt. If you guys want to check it out, I think for some reason it's not showing up on YouTube yet, but you can check it out on my website. If you go to the website, you can find these new shirts. I'm just finding like fun ways for people who want to help us out to be able to make more videos. And maybe it'll give time for Pat to take some time to dedicate to making the videos because again, we're being spread so thin, and it would be cool to be able to cut some other things down so we can put more attention on making videos. Let's see. My hip is what kept me going too. Um, People would say your hip is better because you lost so much weight. That sounds great, except hip pain went months before the weight. Exactly what happened to me too, Mary. Oh my goodness, you and I had a path that was so similar. Like it took only 3 months, and I say 3 months because that's when Pat asked me, "How's your hip?" We were on vacation. I remember the conversation, but I had already been longboarding with the kids, and like I don't actually know when I was running around again like normal. But our vacation was in July, and I vividly remember in June going for a bike ride with my daughter and the kids. So like, but I can't give you a specific date of like, oh, it was exactly 2 months or like 2 months and a half or like a month. And so I don't want to say that. I know that he asked me that question. We were 3 months in. He asked me, "How's your hip?" And I was like, "Oh my goodness, my hip is not bothering me anymore." So, but I know it was more like two something, but I can't put my finger on exactly when it was. It might even have been a month and a half because I'm thinking about around my birthday. I remember doing some stuff. Anyways, I digress. So, but we have such similar paths. It's kind of crazy. Um, yeah, we do have a few ideas, but haven't gotten to film yet. Yeah, hopefully we will. To quote my dear friend Joe from Two Crazy Ketos, all high, heavy whipping cream has carbs. Yeah, of course. Like, so this is that thing going back to what I said earlier, that zero point 0.6 grams they're allowed to round down. Doesn't make any sense. We all learned in school that that's what you round up. Somehow, right? Let's see. Don't forget the comments on your vertical format video. I'm seeing them, so thank you very much. I'm seeing both in this feed, so that works out really well. So oh, you're talking to Mary. Cool. I remember Dr. Berg saying that we have to get healthy before actually, I was saying that too. Like, I remember, like, how did I say it? A healthy body regulates its weight. I've been saying that since I think I started my channel. A healthy body regulates its weight. And then I heard Dr. Berg say it, and I was like, we are on the same page. I love that. Dr. Berg, Dr. Barry, Dr. Westman, Dr. Fung. These are like the original people I used to listen to. And they don't always say things I agree with. I'll be honest with you, very transparent about that. There's some times where they say things and I'm just like, oof, like they're missing the mental health component of a lot of things, which is part of the reason that I felt so compelled to jump into the space, because I feel like sometimes that element is not being pushed enough to help us to understand that, yeah, there's biochemistry going on 100%, 1000%. But like we were talking about earlier, you could be doing everything right and your body is not at all pushing you. So it's not a feeling that's pushing you. It's more of a like a mental, like, I want it. Like, I still, and it has more to do with the stories that we tell ourselves in our own minds than it has anything to do with the actual food you're eating, because you're eating perfectly well. But then we get stuff like this that comes up and it's like, and then there's more, right? So it will be really interesting for me to see in my coming months what pulls me, because at this point in time, Wellness Warrior, my foods are meat, fish, poultry, eggs, and salt. That is what I'm eating. No spices. That's what I'm eating. I'm absolutely looking forward to see what other things end up getting me. Can I say that I never walk through someone's puff of cigarette smoke? No, that happened to me like 2 weeks ago and I was really mad. When we leave our house, all the pollution in the air impacting us. So, of course, it's impossible. What's in our water? It's impossible to get nothing coming in from outside besides the good stuff. But I've minimized the things that I can control, and I want to see what happens with my health. So I'm excited for the video that I'm going to make about this, because love how you put that, Miss Violet. Yes, coffee and so much cream is harming my health. And yes, I do miss it. Like, I miss cheese and dairy, but it does trigger me. Yeah. And I think that, like, it's hard when I miss something. How much of that is my mind playing with me, and how much of that is like I actually miss it? And I feel like whenever we're talking about things we don't control, that's my mind playing with me. Because, so I'll go back to my example of thalassemia. When I stopped eating red meat, so that, like, I stopped buying burgers that were made of beef. I started buying chicken burgers. Like, so what my switch was, again, it wasn't keto at the time. When we went out to eat, if there was a burger joint, I would order the chicken burger, or if they had a pork burger, I would order it, right? I would do that kind of thing. Um, we went out to restaurants, I just ordered the chicken dish or the pork dish or right? And at my parents' place, um, my mom has no problem to make me a piece of chicken or a piece of pork whenever I come over, because of learning, when she learned that I had thalassemia and like there was a real reason that I couldn't eat the beef, she just switched over and started making me, because I found that out as an adult, by the way, after years and years and years of my pediatrician trying to get my parents to put me, first of all, to force me to eat meat, like red meat, which I was eating. And for some reason, they didn't believe I was eating it because my blood work wasn't showing, because I had thalassemia. But then eventually, um, my parents, like, they tried to get me on iron pills, and my parents bought the iron pills and I just wasn't taking them. And so, I mean, like, all those struggles from the age of about 12 through till I was 18, and was just like, I'm just not eating this anymore. And like, adult, you can't make me. And so I just stopped eating. Well, I didn't stop eating 100%, because like I told you, I was still eating the spaghetti sauce. But like, I was just not fighting myself to eat stuff I didn't like to eat anymore. And that was the other part of the story, is like, I always hated beef. And I didn't understand why I hated it, but I just hated it. So when I turned 18, I just stopped eating it, except for the spaghetti sauce, 'cause I liked spaghetti, and hamburgers. I liked hamburgers. Those two things stay part of them. But anytime my mom would do steak or like any kind of like roast beef or any of that stuff. Did not eat it. And in all fairness, my mom doesn't like that stuff too. It's my dad that likes red meat, so that's why we were eating it. Um, but I had a pass now because I was an adult, and I only found out when I was pregnant with my daughter that I actually had thalassemia because they did more blood work and realized that, oh, your iron deficiency is not based on red meat, or lacking eating red meat, or even lacking iron. You have iron. There's no issue with your iron levels. It's just the way that it's in your body. Our tests are not showing it. But when we test this other way, we can see the iron is there. And it was like, oh, thank goodness. So, you know what? Answers really help. Answers really help. When you know what's going on with you, it makes life easier. It helps you to stick with what's working and stop breaking your brain about things that are not working. Katie says, I also want to wait until a real carnivore keto study comes forth because I've done more than 12 days going back to carnivore for the third time, and I've done my whole last year. So there is a keto study that's come up. I'm not sure what this is relating to. I'd have to scroll back to see exactly what you're specifically talking to, Katie. If you're still here, do you want to just refresh my memory of what it is that you want to know about a real carnivore and keto study? There was the study that Dr. Eid was part of, and the other doctor was Dr. Donnon. He's French, so Donn. I want to say On or E. So, but I think it was Donnon, and I think also Dr. Westman might have been part of that study, if I remember correctly. But like Dr. E talked about it on my interview with her. And yeah, like the diet itself works. But if you remind me what specifically you're talking about when you're saying like a study, is it related specifically to dairy? Because Dr. Eid talked about that too, but if you want to study, so okay, before I get off that topic, I want to say something. They've trained us to not believe anything unless we have a study. And I think that for some things that makes total sense. But then there's other things where it's like, if my body is giving me data, even if a study says that that's not reality, if my body is giving me data, what should I believe? So the example, not thalassemia, the nightshades issue that I have, all the evidence says trace amounts of solanine do nothing to humans. You can eat it. But yet when I touch any nightshade vegetable, I am in hella pain. Not just a little bit of pain, Wellness Warrior, ridiculous pain. So should I believe their research, or should I believe the reality of what my body is telling me? I've chosen to believe my body because when I eat those nightshade things, yeah. When I eat red meat, well, I don't know what would happen today because I'm not menstruating anymore. So I don't know what would happen today if I ate some red meat. But I do know what happened to my mouth when I put it in my mouth. It was like, oh, that was within the time frame that I was in menopause. So yeah. So all of these things matter. My body is saying no to that. I don't care what your research is saying. My body is screaming, yeah, eat that. It tastes like that, and that's not great. So don't, right? And nothing is no food, let me be more clear. No food that we're eating should be tasting like metal. That's just weird. I'm glad to see to ha- I'm glad to have Violet syndrome because my body always keeps me on track. It keeps me in check when I try to eat off plan. Yeah, Violet syndrome has helped me a bunch because it. Why would I want to be in pain? So I was also thinking how I drink black coffee 99% of the time. Okay, I enjoy the butter in coffee, but I don't need it. It's more of a treat. And so are there drawbacks to not having it black? Are there drawbacks to not having it black? I mean, honestly, Chris, the only thing that I would say is if you're one of those few people that could react to the trace amounts of casomorphin, in the butter, then that would be the drawback. That would be the drawback. If you don't react, and how do we know? Like honestly, like I said, I think it's one of those situations where over time is how you're going to know if you're reacting or not. Like if you start off with like, let's say you're starting off with 1 teaspoon or 1 tablespoon of butter, let's say in your coffee, or even heavy cream. Like if you start off with that 1 teaspoon and it never changes and it's always that, and everything that's going on with your body you're absolutely happy with, maybe it didn't impact you. And this is why I say, like, I'm really trying to be very clear here. If you're doing keto, chances are good you might not even notice what I'm talking about. At the same time, there are people that I've known who were doing keto and still saw the difference of the casomorphin. And for me, that says that the casomorphin was impacting them that much. That's what it's saying to me, right? And maybe it's about the amount they were having. Maybe it's about the production. So the company, so the brand that they were using, were they being completely transparent on what was in their product? Because we know that brands do that, right? That they say one thing and it's something else. So there's so much to this. Or could it have been psychological, that you just love the taste, and like you, it was reminding you of your childhood, or it was like there's something emotional happening there that had nothing to do with your body, and it was causing you to chase. So I'm pointing this out because if there's no emotional anything happening, if the quality of the cream that you're using is perfectly fine, and it feels kind of like a chasing thing, like where you have it and it like you're kind of fighting with yourself. You have it, you don't have it, you're fine, you have it. And if that's what's happening, chances are very good that there might be something there. And a lot of us won't know until we test, right? Like I had no idea how big of a problem it was causing in the backseat for me until I took it out of my diet. And that's the biggest issue I have with all of this. Had I never removed carbohydrates from my diet, I wouldn't know that carbohydrates were keeping me obese. I can't call it overweight. I was actually obese. So it was keeping me obese. It was keeping my joints inflamed and hurting all the time. It was keeping me in a process of damaging other things, on the way to diabetes, on the way to internal damage, on the way to living a life I didn't want, a surgery that I didn't want. And all of that because I decided to take the carbohydrates out of my diet. I wouldn't have known otherwise. And I had taken junk food out of my diet before, but the copious amounts of rice and potatoes and pasta that I ate, even when I took the junk food out, allowed me to still be in the problem because I was still eating stuff. And by the way, whenever I took the junk food out to be good, I would add fruits and vegetables back in, right? Because I'm supposed to be eating fruits and vegetables and that's how you're healthy. And oh my goodness, I remember at one point, Pat would be trying to encourage me in those moments where I was trying to be healthy because he loves fruit. And he would be like, oh, eat this, this fruit, try this fruit, and all this stuff, and like trying to give me options. And I mean, he's such a supportive person because even when I was doing keto, he did the same thing once he resigned himself that I was going to try this crazy stuff that he thought was going to turn my life upside down. But then he was like, okay, well, he cooked meals in a way that I could still get something from what he was cooking and not have the stuff that would harm me, in my opinion, because he thought I was nuts. He also thought it wouldn't last. So he would, he was like, okay, well, do what you're doing and we'll see how long it lasts. And like 8 years later, here we are. So I think that it's important for 7 3/4. I'm getting up to that 8 years right now. But I think it's so important for us to realize that our body will let us understand. And there is a mental health component to this that we need to address. So yeah, you're saying I can add your name, Mary? Oh, this is great. I'm so happy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm definitely gonna add your name to the list. That's exciting for me. Although I'm Canadian, BC, I got involved with a bunch of American keto folk, being on the keto cruise. Oh, cool. Keto Palooza twice. That's cool. And admin for 2 crazy ketos. But sadly, USA travel is out, so back to my roots. Oh, okay, cool. But I mean, that's kind of cool that you were able to be involved in all that stuff. Yeah, I was never able to find anyone to work with me to help me out in that way, which is again why it takes me so much energy to make videos and come up with new live stream ideas and all the things that I'm trying to do and get those pat chats we would love to do, but we just don't have the bandwidth to do everything. Let's see. K-Day says thalassemia. I've looked into it, Violet. It's a serious condition. Yes, yes. I'm very aware. And at the end of the day, I'm just happy that I feel as amazing as I feel, first of all. And it's hard for me because I had this condition for the majority of my life up until my 30s. So I had the condition longer than I not had it. Like, sorry, I've had the condition and not known about it longer than I've had it and known about it at this point, right? So, like, because I was in my 30s when I had my daughter. And the thing that's really interesting to me is that when I understood what was causing my problem, how much I was able to just dial in and feel better. Just like 100% feel better. Because I think that's when I actually like completely dropped even eating the yeah, I think I completely dropped even eating any of my dad's spaghetti sauce. And that was one of the last things that I was still touching once in a while because I didn't know that that was causing a problem and it didn't taste bad to me. Where burgers had started to taste bad to me, like beef burgers. But the spaghetti sauce, I mean, of course, what's in it, right? All the tomatoes and whatever is still so. But even that, like not realizing what a double whammy it was. I was getting the iron that was messing with me. I was getting the solanine that was messing with me. So many things there that was like just messing with me. So I definitely think that as time progresses, um, and you see how serious a situation you're in, it's seeing it, it's taking it seriously that helps us to make better decisions, that helps us to stick with the decisions we make. Like if I don't take my decision seriously, I'm not going to stick with it. Right? That's just obvious. I don't take it seriously. I'm gonna say, oh yeah, sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't, blah 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 blah. And then I'm because I'm not taking it seriously. And I feel like that was a huge turning point in my life. Is just this ability to say, hey, I'm taking this seriously because well, they told me how dangerous it could be for me to eat these things, eat things that were not that were too high in iron. Okay. Seems like we're getting close to the end here, it looks like. Have you done any research on what nutritional deficiencies can cause or lead to thalassemia? Well, because they've told me, and again, I'm taking their word for it as the medical professionals, but at the same time, part of the reason I want to test if I'm still having thalassemia in, and I'm probably going to do a blood test to check, but the reason I want to check in like 10 or 20 years, sorry, so 20 years from when I started keto is just to make sure, like, do I still have thalassemia, like registered? Like, is it still registering in my blood or have things regulated themselves since I took away all the vegetation? That's the only thing I can actually double check that would tell me whether or not the food caused the problem, right? So I want to check that at some point. But in terms of nutritional deficiencies, because I eat a wide variety, so I used to eat like pork, so the meat, fish. No, sorry, I used to eat meat and poultry. This past year or 2 years, this past 2 years, I've added fish in to my rotation. I used to eat fish once a year on Good Friday for religious reasons. Now I'm doing it like regularly. So that's like, that's a new thing. And regularly, I'm not doing it like weekly, but I try to get some fish in at least once or twice a month. And with my most recent eating of fish, I feel like I can do it more regularly. It's just about, it's not in my rotation yet. So it's not like an automatic, but I want to try to figure out a way to make it automatic. And the way to do that will be to like put it in my rotation and like start really like having it be one of the meals that I just have every single week. But in terms of deficiencies, because I'm being so good at varying through the different kinds of meats that I do eat and fish that I do eat, I don't believe that I'm having any nutritional deficiencies. And again, even if I tried to do research on what leads to thalassemia and if it could be nutritional deficiencies, they have it currently um, as a innate, right? It's idiopathic, as they like to call it, to people just have it or they don't. Okay, hello, stop it. My cat's misbehaving. Don't do that. Um, so yeah, do you want to come? Okay. Okay, what could we have next? You have to behave though. Just read that it's thalassemia is a genetic mutation. Yeah, that's what they've told me. We'll see. I do think sometimes they call things genetic, inherited, innate, whatever, and then we find out that they're not. So I don't know. We'll see. How long did it take your body to, because I think something can be genetic, like it's kind of within you to express, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's a mutation. It can be within all of us to express, and it really has more to do with, do you end up expressing it based on the life you live, the stress levels you have, the like, so there could be a bunch of things that will determine that you end up expressing that gene, maybe, and that other people don't express that gene, right? Yeah. So how long did it take your body to start releasing weight after going full carnivore? I was already at goal weight and I haven't had a change in weight. So I my eating did change when I went full carnivore because like I said, and so let me be very clear about something because I think that's another element that will help you to understand my trajectory versus the average person. I was keto for 7 years. Mm, the 7 years? No, I want to say 6 years. Mm, nope, I'm wrong. I was keto for 5 years before I went carnivore because we're coming up on year 8. Right. So we're coming up on year 8. So I was keto, which will mean that I will be 3 years. Is that right? Yeah, I want to say that that's right. So I was keto for 5 years. But by the last 3 years of my keto journey, maybe 2 years of my keto journey, my day looked, or like my week looked like 5 of the days I was eating only meat, fish, or poultry. And fish was rare. So meat or poultry. And then 2 of the days I was having um, vegetation. So I would have olives with cheese on one of the meals, and then I would have avocado on the other meal. And back in 2024, so you could do the math on how many years that puts me at, but back in 2024, when I had the interview with Dr. Eid, she was the one at that, no, sorry, when I had the interview with Dr. Chafee, the interview with Dr. Eid, and the interview with Sally Norton, those three people really helped me to go carnivore. And I think the interview with Norton, but it was really Chafee's interview that really tipped me over. And he was the first interview, I believe. So February of 2024, that after that, I said, this is it. I'm going carnivore. Like it's over. And a lot of that had to do with multiple things. Some health issues of people in the family that kind of made me go, you know what? I have to take this more seriously. Like make sure my health is pristine as much as I can. So all of that to say, Wellness Warrior, that I was regular keto, like eating vegetables and all that kind of stuff every day for about 3-ish years. And then I did 2 years where I had the schedule where, oh, there was a salad in there like every other week. I was having a salad that was really just like lettuce um, and a little bit of like salad dressing and a few olives. That was a Greek salad that I was having. So that was like, I would say 2.5 days per week of vegetation. And I went from that to no vegetation. That was an easy transition for me. That was like, I could do that in my sleep because there wasn't much to it. I just stopped having the avocado and the olives and the salad that I was having. So my body adjusted to that really easily. I didn't have any withdrawal. I didn't have any. That was just almost like I hadn't changed anything because I had done 2 years of that's such a little bit of vegetation in my diet. Even though I had that little bit of vegetation in my diet, I still spoke about myself as keto because that vegetation was part of my meal plan. And honestly, for me, that's something that I think we need to be better at, is not playing games with ourselves. I didn't call myself carnivore when I wasn't. I would say like I have carnivore days, but when you ask me what style of eating do you do, I always said keto because that's what I was doing. There's vegetation in my meal plan every single week. I am keto. I see people trying to play with terms and like ketovore and do I do all these things and like make in between steps that are unnecessary. I think clarity helps us to understand our body and adjust as necessary. If I know I'm eating vegetation, because I'm doing a keto diet, and vegetation has some levels of toxins in them, if I'm worried about those toxins, I'm going to keep paying attention. But if I call myself ketovore, it could let me ease off of paying attention to that vegetation. And that's where I see the potential for carb creep coming back in. That's where, because we're in this gray zone that we've created for ourselves. Lack of clarity is one of the ways that we are controlled by companies and basically people that want our money more than our health. So let's not muddy the waters. And I feel like a lot of times people end up muddying the waters because they don't understand this mental health part of the story. Not because they're bad people. They just don't understand the mental health portion of the story. You need clarity if you are going to have success. You need to know what I need to pay attention to and what matters less, right? And honestly, even though what kind of protein I eat is less important than the fact that I get enough protein in, I'm still trying to find a way to get more fish in because I know fish has different nutrients in different levels. Or so I shouldn't say different nutrients, but they have the nutrients in different levels, and that could be really beneficial to me. And maybe there is something in fish that I can't get from meat or poultry. It's possible. Um, at the end of the day, I want to help myself to do the thing that makes my health most well-rounded. Long answer to that question. Will you ever be for BHRT, or do you believe it's, you have to give me the what that abbreviation stands for because I don't know what that stands for, K-Day. HRT. Because HRT to me is saying hormone replacement therapy. So, and I don't think that's right from what you're saying in the next sentence. Or do you believe it's diet? Yeah, I'm not sure. If you want to answer, give me some more context, I can try to answer that question. I plan to do a dairy elimination to see if that affects my thyroid antibody levels. So far, without looking at blood, I get no other feedback. I don't know if you saw the video that I actually I have a video coming up with Dr. Hampton about thyroid levels and everything. So look out for that video. But I talk a bit about also the iodine that we're being encouraged to take in our community. And it turns out that we're being encouraged to take too much, and you should probably talk to a keto-friendly doctor and just make sure. I know Dr. Hampton knows a lot about it, so if you want to reach out to him, it was very helpful. But I do have a video coming about it in the coming weeks, because I was taking way too much, and I found out that I was like doing things that could have been very detrimental to my health by taking too much. So now, luckily, iodine is something that we can get control of quite quickly, and so I'm happy for that. But this is what happens when there's not enough shared information. And another thing I'm going to point out that really bothers me, a lot of people have thyroid issues because not only do we have like lacking information. We're not never taught that iodine is essential to ingest daily. Like nowhere in my schooling history, and I did sciences. I did biology and like sciences in that realm. So like not just like, like nowhere did any professor ever say, by the way, iodine is essential to get every single day. It's crazy to me. And I'm sure that if I were to ask a few doctors the same question, they probably would say that, oh yeah, they know that iodine is important, but do they understand that we are not getting it daily in enough amounts? A. B. Do they understand that we are often scared away from getting it? Because the one place that we can all get it easily is in our salt. They tell us not to have salt. And then, of course, you have Dr. Berry, who shared recently that even the iodine in salt isn't it isn't being held in the salt properly. So even what you think you're getting iodized salt is not giving you as much salt iodine as you think you're. So there's just like so much stuff there. Bride's biscuit is definitely, it definitely does, but try, okay, I don't know what you guys are talking about. Um, Hello, Violet. Hello, Nigel. The very last thing I gave up was the daily eating of broccoli, cauliflower, asparagus, blueberries in a bowl to open my 4 hour eating window. I thought it was crazy, but then, did I say more? But then the scale finally started trending down. Interesting. So you realized that it was the broccoli that was giving you problems, or the basically the vegetation that you were still eating that was giving you problems. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you figured it out because I think a lot of the times we don't. We kind of don't do more research and we don't. And I will even take this a step further, Nigel. I mean, the fact that you cut all of the stuff is fine, but I'm questioning if it was all the things or was it the blueberries? So that's a question mark in my mind. But at the end of the day, I think that what's important is that you figured it out and you started to get progression again. And I'm saying progression, it's not just towards weight loss. If my body is regulating its weight, it means my health is regulating because your weight can only regulate when your health is regulating. Like your body doesn't care how much you weigh. It cares about keeping you as healthy as humanly as it can, right? As humanly possible as it can. I've met Dr. Barry and Nisha several times, danced with Dr. Westman, and had great conversations with Dave Feldman, Maria Emmerich, and many more keto gurus. I am blessed in this regard. Yeah, I mean that is amazing. I've definitely had many conversations with Westman and also with Dr. Hampton. He's totally amazing. Um, Dr. Chafee is amazing as well. And I really feel like we have so many caring doctors in our space who are willing to sit down and have conversations with you and just get the information out there. So I love that about our community. Hormone therapy, Miss Violet. Okay, so you were talking about hormone. Oh, I think the first letter is bovine hormone replacement therapy. So yeah, so I guess it was the second part of your statement that kind of threw me because you asked about diet. And you're right, it's not a diet. And so that's why I was a little bit confused by what you were saying. What I think about it is that I don't, from everything I'm learning now about iodine and what Dr. Berg talked a lot about iodine and he talked about like helping your lymphatic system and adrenals and like he talks a lot about hormones. And I think the one thing that I've figured out about iodine is that, and sorry, what I figured out about hormones is that when we eat properly and we really take the time to get the right amount of iodine, so the right amount of iodine, eating properly, and so that we have enough cholesterol, because that's the other thing, going back to why we need to make sure we eat fat, right? Because that's another thing that we don't realize. Our body does make cholesterol. So if we don't eat it, it will make it. But if we eat it, it doesn't have to make as much. And it's a whole thing about resources, right? Because our body uses not only cholesterol for hormones, but it also uses fat as a building block. Like your entire brain is made of fat, right? So we need these lipids every single day, which is part of the reason I'm really trying to help people understand like this fear we have of overeating protein, overeating fat. Like when you listen to these doctors who are in the space of like nutrition science and understand keto carnivore and are really trying to share the information that we need to have to actually help our bodies with food, they're pointing out that our bodies do best when we get the right amount of fat and protein. And we struggle when we don't get enough. Dr. Bickman had a video, and I actually think I might have it. I can play for you because I keep it in here just because I want to be able to play it for you guys um whenever I need to. So here it is.
You can take a newborn baby and the baby can breastfeed or bottle feed. And then within an hour, the baby is in a deeper state of ketosis than an adult would be after fasting for for a full day. I mean, that baby will be at 2 millimolar ketones in an hour. And an adult, and for me, if I want to get to 2 million, I got to fast for like 36 hours to get to that point. And I mean, so if there's any natural state, kind of back to our conversation a moment ago, it is clearly that a natural state is a state of ketosis. We are such totally unique creatures where we are the only land-based mammals born obese and the only animal who has a brain that is larger than the birth canal, much to mother's chagrin. But that means we have these very big, hungry brains and all of this chubby, adorable baby fat that is just producing ketones like gangbusters to fuel the brain growth. And if you have a baby that is born premature and lacks sufficient adipose tissue, it is much more likely that they're going to develop neurological disorders.
So part of the thing that I want to point out with that video is that if the baby doesn't have enough fat tissue, it's going to have issues. If the baby is born into ketosis, which is another thing that ketosis is a state of emergency. No, it's not. No, it's not. Our body wants to be in a ketogenic state. We are born into a ketogenic state, but yet somehow we just allow these, well, not allow, we've been lied to so many times. We've been lied to so many times that we don't know what to trust and what not to trust. But I love that Dr. Bickman brought this forward in that conversation because it really does help us to understand that the things that they're trying to get us to be scared of, we don't need to be scared of. And the things that we can do to help ourselves are right in front of us if we're willing to do some stuff and then pay attention to the outcomes we get. And that's what it's about. It's about doing some things and then seeing the results and doing some things and then seeing the results and over and over. I think you're right, Miss Violet. Whoops. Hold on, what's going on here? I think you're right, Miss Violet. That veggie bowl was most likely a problem because of the blueberries. Plus the seed oil dressing I was adding, okay, to make it taste better. I gotta keep real and be honest. Now, the thing I'll point out for you, Nigel, right now is that I don't know how long ago you took that out of your diet, but if it's been more than 2 months, you probably are best to keep it out of your diet. Because what you don't want to have happen is oxalate dumping. And this is something that most people don't think about, right? They kind of remove things and bring them back, remove things and bring them back, and then they don't feel great. And they don't understand that when we take things out of our diet, our body adjusts because it's like excited, right? Like it's gone, thank goodness. And it can start processing out the toxins. But then if I bring back the toxin, well, then my body's so some people's bodies can overreact and just start dumping because it's afraid it's going to become overloaded again. And I talked to lots of people. Holly is a great example of that happened to her. And her body just like was inflamed and she was struggling and she was slowly trying to follow new protocols to get her health back. Another thing that might happen is that when you bring back those berries or any of those vegetation, if you had cut all the vegetation, you might end up chasing. So even if you don't have oxalate dumping, you could end up chasing. So just be careful. I am a big advocate of not trying to chase weight loss. If I take something out of my diet, I need to be willing to say that that's not coming back. Now that I understand about all the different types of dumping, because I mean, oxalate dumping is a term that Sally Norton coined, but I actually think that our body can dump all kinds of things, because all it means is that your body sees you bring something back and it tries swiftly to get rid of the rest of the stuff before it gets overloaded again. And you're basically, so you're reacting, right? And so therefore, I could see where if I were to try to eat tomatoes tomorrow, I probably could be solanine dumping if there's any solanine still in my body that needs to be processed out. What would cause there to still be solanine or oxalate or any other toxin in my body that needs to be processed out? It's because it takes 20-ish years to rebuild one of these things completely, head to toe, right? Some parts of the body rebuild in hours, days, weeks, months, years, tens of years. And then of course there's a 20, some structures take 20 years to rebuild. And I used to have a list. I don't have the list on my desk anymore because there was some crazy that happened in my office a few weeks ago, and I don't have all my stuff where they're supposed to be. But you guys can look that up. It's easy to look up what parts of the body take 20 years to rebuild, and Google will tell you. That's an easy one to verify. And if you go to the biology textbooks, it's validated there. The reason I'm saying this is I want every wellness warrior to understand that, yes, that means that even though I'm almost 8 years into my journey, there are parts of my body that, 20, like they're not even halfway to being rebuilt yet, right? Like that's how long it takes for there to be a complete returnover of all those cells, because we live in the renovation, right? Our body is a renovation, is constantly renovating. Every single day you have new cells. So it's important for us to understand that. Let's see here. After removing that bowl, I woke up every day with crystals coming out of my eyelids. So I know that was the oxalate dumping plus giving up my 15 years of daily green tea habit. Okay, so thank you very much for pointing that out. And so you were one of the people that had it as you released the thing. You started to have all the crystals and everything, which, okay, now the new question is, what next, right? So if you bring it back, you could still end up struggling with your body. That book that, what was the name of Sally's book? Maybe at the end of this video, I'm going to go back in and just put Michael Moss's book, Sally's book, and any of the other books that I think might be relevant for today in the description below. I'm not sure if those books might already be there, but I will try my best to go back and just put some positive readings for everyone. Actually, I think I'll leave that list. Once I make it, I'll try to leave it in there for all the time, so you guys can see what I've read that I thought was helpful and I could be related to what you want to do. So you said the dumping was serious but not painful. Okay. So it looks like we're at the end of our questions. Wellness Warrior, I mean, I'm so happy that I was able to have the chat with you. We've been going for 2 hours and 15 minutes, so I'm going to go get ready for the other activities I have in my day today. I do have a meeting in the Wellness Squad captains later on tonight, so I'm gonna have to go get ready for that. And if you guys want to contribute to helping me make more videos, the t-shirts are available. There's also a link if you just want to do a one-time contribution, or if you want to be able to become a monthly contributor, there's a link in the description as well for that, to help the channel out to make more videos. So I really do appreciate it, and I will talk to you guys next week at 11:20 on Monday. Have a great rest of your day. Today's video is brought to you by my keto consultations. You know how to do keto, but you're having trouble just sticking with it? Book a consultation with me and we're going to get you back on track. The link is in the description.